Hello, everybody. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you for joining me today, giving me just a little bit of your time. You know that I appreciate you. I'd like to talk about Nick Saban today and the arrests of Cam Robinson and Hootie Jones. Get a little deeper into that than we did yesterday, because what happened with the two of them is ridiculous. And how it's going to be handled is going to say everything about Nick Saban and I think how we see him. Like we see Nick Saban as a guy who is capable of being a disciplinarian, even though mostly the person or persons we see Nick Saban disciplining the most is the media. Now Nick Saban is in a position where everybody's on him, watching him and how he's going to discipline his players. And I don't think that he's headed in the right direction. Okay. Not that he's done anything yet, but like there's indicators and stuff that he said in the past about players and guys getting into trouble. And so I want to talk about that because we scrutinize the players very often for doing the dumb things that sometimes get them arrested, and then we don't scrutinize the people in leadership positions who should be in charge of disciplining them and making sure that the right consequences come from that decision making. Okay, when you've got two guys in a car and they get arrested on alleged possession of guns, one gun of which is stolen, and there's marijuana in the front seat, then you've got a bunch of questions that need answering. And you've got a lot of disciplining that needs handed out. Okay. And you see Alabama hasn't been in this kind of spotlight recently. I think that they've, for the most part, dodged the domestic abuse bullets. Those are the things that you don't want to get arrested for, because as you see with the University of Tennessee, that entire line of questioning draws so much attention to you, and attention that is completely unwanted in every way. Okay, because one, it's an arrest. That's already not good. Two, it's domestic abuse, which is the hot button issue right now in sports. It's the one thing that you get arrested for that. Your public image is just completely leveled. You get in trouble for marijuana possession. That just speaks to you just not being all that bright. Not that you're an awful person. You hit a woman, you're an awful person. Okay? You just are. I mean, there's nothing to negotiate. There's nothing to talk about. You just are a bad person. And so now that this is in the spotlight, you really can't be caught doing those kinds of things. But trust me, stolen gun is not a good thing either. So we'll dive a little bit into that. Larry Bird thinks that this era of basketball is the greatest era, and I agree. So we'll talk about that too. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose here on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Before we jump into anything, as always, I have to tell you about where you can reach us and where we can reach you online. I highly recommend Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Surely you are familiar with these places, but if you don't want to go through the trouble of hurting your fingers and typing in youtube.com and then searching for Hot News Talk Radio, here's what you can do. You can go to hotnewstalkradio.com and click on any of the social media links that we have on our page. We've got all of those things. We also stream this station online, so you can listen at home, you can listen at work, in your office, wherever, and you can have us everywhere you go. And for those of you who want to listen on your mobile devices, maybe you're in your car and you're not getting the signal very well, that's fine also. It happens to me too. I get the TuneIn Radio app. I have an Android phone. You can find the TuneIn Radio app in your favorite app store. Simply search Hot News Talk Radio in the app, press play, give us a favorite, and you'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. Want to talk about Nick Saban in Alabama? It's kind of a dumpster dive into things that Nick Saban has said in the past and Alabama's own track record, right? So here's the thing. A few days ago, left tackle Cam Robinson and safety Hootie Jones were arrested for basically on charges of gun possession and an illegal weapon charge and possession of marijuana and the presence of narcotics. Okay, the officer allegedly saw the stolen weapon in the lap of Hootie Jones and the marijuana in the front seat. Those are the two things that are alleged to have happened. The arraignment for the case is next month, June 16th. Okay, and yesterday I got into a little bit of like, what are the two of you thinking in a car with two guns and marijuana? The officer comes up to the car. You didn't even try to hide the gun? Like you had one gun under the seat. You didn't try and hide the other one? You didn't try and hide the weed? It was just there chilling? The officer saw it from the window? What are you doing? Okay, but then like that's like level one of these guys are being ridiculous. But they're college guys. They are ridiculous by nature. I think many more of us could have gotten into even more trouble. We just weren't in college long enough to be in more trouble. We just weren't. Like you're not very bright in college if you're a guy. Okay, I'm guessing there's enough women out there who met their husbands, boyfriends, etc. in college that you just you don't have to say anything out loud. Just nod your head. He wasn't that bright in college, was he? Because we're just not. Okay, we're just not wired that way. We do silly stuff, and that's fine. But we can't act like this is just a simple mistake. Like this is just a mere accident. These guys can come back from this. It's okay. It wasn't just a mistake. It's like flying a plane, okay? Plane crashes happen not because one thing goes wrong or even two things go wrong. For a plane to crash, according to a lot of agents of the NTSB who investigate plane crashes, about seven things have to go wrong in an airplane for an airplane to crash. And they all have to happen at the same time. That's why airplanes don't crash very often. You have to have the worst case scenario on an airplane happen about 7 times. If you are in a plane with a capable pilot and co-pilot that know what they're doing, and all of the instruments are working, even if the instruments were to stop working, there's still ways to land the plane without crashing it. Even if one or both pilot and co-pilot aren't that great, there's still ways to land the plane without crashing it. About 7 things have to go wrong in a plane for a plane to crash. Okay, in order for an accident, for this to just be a mistake, where you wind up with 2 guns in a car, marijuana, and 1 gun is stolen, that's not just a mistake. That's like a bunch of mistakes stacking on top of each other. Okay, and when you're looking at what these 2 guys are going through, when it comes to in what way should they be punished, the decision is obvious. There's got to be some kind of, at the very least, suspension. Okay? The 2 of you are in a car with a stolen gun. The law doesn't have to prove anything after that. The University of Alabama should come down on one or both of these guys. Not just to send a message, though that sends a message too, because if you don't come down on them, that sends the other message. And remember, the University of Texas A&M, the players there had a little minor revolt. You had quarterbacks transferring out left and right because Johnny Manziel was allowed to do things that were wrong without discipline because he was Johnny Manziel. The players realized they needed discipline in their locker room, even though Kevin Sumlin and the Texas A&M coaching staff did not realize this. And that's why they transferred, at least initially. Okay, you're looking at Alabama. Nick Saban is in a position where he's on the Paul Feinbaum show, and he was talking about his stance on discipline and the things that he tells his players. And you know, one of the things that he said was, one thing I always tell players is that there are 3 bad things. Nothing good happens after midnight. Nothing good happens when you're around guns. unless you're going hunting, and you don't want to mess around with women that you don't know because a lot of times bad things happen. And in this case, a couple of those things were violated. I think it's going to be a learning experience for everybody on our team. Yes, you think, but in a situation where you've got two guys with two guns, one of which is stolen, that's an automatic suspension of some kind. Now, Alabama's going to take as much time as they need, and they're going to do what they need to do to investigate this, and that's every bit their right. But you had a guy in a car with a gun that was not his. Quite frankly, that's all the information you need to know. Okay, you don't need to know what the courts are going to do, and if they're going to give a harsh enough punishment so you can hand out your punishment. The issue here is that Cam Robinson is a really good player, and you don't want to suspend him. The college football, again and again and again, proves to me and everybody else it's not about the kids. So stop saying that. It's not about them. It's about you winning football games, okay? Nick Saban is not a moral pillar. And I'm picking on Nick Saban, but like everybody isn't. Like Mark Richt, and that's about it. Like Nick Saban is not a moral pillar. He isn't. Okay, Alabama has had since the website Arrest Nation has existed. Okay, not since Nick Saban has been there. Not in the history of Alabama. Just since the website Arrest Nation has existed since 2011, Alabama has had 21 football-related arrests. Okay, and a lot of those are repeats. You know, guys like Geno Smith repeating again and again. Alabama has had 21 football-related arrests with no hope for slowing down anytime soon. That does include Hootie Jones and Cam Robinson, who were arrested together. So, I mean, even if you subtract the 19 football-related arrests, like that's still a very high number in a span of 5 years. It's a very high number. And remember when Nick Saban caught a lot of heat for signing Jonathan Taylor from Georgia. Jonathan Taylor got kicked off the team because he was arrested for aggravated assault and domestic violence. And Nick Saban signed him and ran us out there the old giving a young man a second chance. People do deserve a second chance, but not unlike having two guns in a car or crashing an airplane. It wasn't just a mistake. It's not just a mistake. Like 7 things have to happen for that to happen before you get to the point where you are allegedly punching a young woman with your closed fist repeatedly. That's not just a mistake. There's a lot of bad decisions that led to that point, and then that too is a bad decision. Okay, she had markings all on her face, she had bruises, and she was allegedly punched repeatedly with Jonathan Taylor's closed fist, and Nick Saban was like, that guy can play football. Come on over to the Crimson Tide. I mean, this is not a guy that's worrying about morality. This is a guy that's worrying about wins. And I'm not trying to put just Nick Saban on blast because that's all of them. That's college football's coaches everywhere. You've just got a lot of pressure on you to win games, and you'll take anybody. Okay, and he was under fire for that for like a little bit. The PR nightmare for Georgia is that they couldn't keep Jonathan Taylor after that. But once the guy's been released, then the next team to scoop him up gets to benefit from his talent. Which is just horrible. Because that guy's a woman beater. Allegedly. Okay, that to me is something that you can't tolerate. And if you've let that slide in the past, I just don't feel like he's going to come down very hard on them in the present. I don't think that Nick Saban is going to come down very hard on these guys at all. He's going to wait and see what the courts decide to do with them. And then if he's got to kick them off the team because they can't play on the team, then he's going to do that. But everybody's watching here. And they have to make the right decision. I mean, this is a zero-sum game in a lot of ways. Because there's going to be a group of people that, no matter what Nick Saban does, won't think that he punished these guys hard enough. And I'm not saying like obliterate their chances of playing college football ever again. I'm not saying kick them off the team. I'm not saying to not try and rehabilitate them in some way. But what I am saying is some kind of punishment has to come out. And, you know, you could do the private in-house punishment that's going to send a message in-house. But if you do something that's public, that tells future players going to Alabama, Nick Saban doesn't play around when you mess with the law. I just don't think he's going to do it. I just don't think he's going to do it. That's what he should do. Somebody should, I mean, there should be suspensions. And not just, 2 games. All right. You're in a car with a stolen gun and marijuana. And I don't care that we've gotten on this American kick of marijuana's okay. Look how it's legal in Colorado. Is marijuana illegal in Louisiana where they got arrested? Yes. Then what are you talking about? You follow the law where you are. Fair not. Okay? You only don't follow the law when the law is fundamentally wrong. Like the law is telling you that your race determines where you can and can't be. Yeah, then the law is wrong. The law is telling you can't have pot here, then that's just what the law says. Go somewhere else and do that. Or don't do it. Or don't drive around with a couple of guns and do it. Okay? That we are just so far off of making great decisions. Like we just make football decisions, like some kind of weird sports-obsessed automatons. Like nobody is making decisions based on actual morals and what's right and what's wrong and what sets a great example and what doesn't set a great example. It seems to be entirely based around the fact that these guys can win you games. Okay, he said it in the interview with Paul Feinbaum that Cam Robinson's always been a great person for us, and he's always been a great football player for us, and he's never been in trouble before. Well, yeah, but he's in trouble, and he's in trouble in a big way. All right, he's not in trouble because like I don't know, left like I can't even think of a thing. Like just he's not in trouble because he graffitied on something where it's just like, oh yeah, I thought that would be fun and cool. Or like the 2 guys that had the BB guns in the dorm room. That's something that's like, yeah, they've never been in trouble before, and that was stupid. They weren't trying to do all the damage that they did. They just didn't think about all the damage that they were doing. And I'm sure that Hootie Jones and Cam Robinson weren't like purposely thinking, yeah, let's get caught with guns. But you have to have that extra step of what is the consequence of being caught with a weapon that's not ours. And maybe hide the gun when the officer comes to the window to look in the car. What? You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you for joining me today and giving me just a little slice of your time. You know that I appreciate you. And I can't let this slide by. There was a really cool story the other day about Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt played yesterday, and they got something in baseball that doesn't happen beyond like Little League usually, or at least high school ball. They got the triple steal. They had the bases loaded, and all 3 runners advanced, including 1 stealing of home. Like stealing home is already rare enough, but stealing all players on base, stealing bases. They were playing Auburn, by the way. Auburn was the victim of the crime. You had a perfect storm of things. You had a pitcher with a painfully slow windup. He decided to pitch from the windup and not from the stretch. And then, like, on top of that, the lack of awareness from the infield. Like, nobody moved. Nobody moved. And so Vanderbilt, for like the second time in 4 years, triple steal. Like, you're never going to see that again in your life. I'm going to put that up on the Facebook page because honestly, you're never going to see anything like that again in your life. Make sure to check it out. Go to Facebook, search Hot News Talk Radio, and there's going to be the story about the Vanderbilt triple steal. Make sure to check that video out. It's crazy. And join us on the other side. I've got some talks about the greatest era in the NBA is... Larry Bird says this one.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240. Finding just the right place to live can be a daunting task. Stop your search. In Chattanooga, the place to live is Cross Creek Villas for under $1,000 and available for immediate move-in. You can enjoy this 2-bedroom split layout, over 1,000 square feet, 9-foot ceilings, an extra-large patio or balcony. And don't forget to ask about their preferred employer program. Cross Creek Villas is a gated community, offering a 24-hour fitness facility, a beautiful pool and hot tub, and Cross Creek Villas is pet-friendly. Stroll the pet park with your best friend and enjoy the free use of their business center and clubhouse. Plus, if you mention you heard this on the radio, your application fee is free. Cross Creek Villas, close to downtown off of Highway 58. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com. That's crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446. That's 894-0446. Redefine the way you live at Cross Creek Villas. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446. Cross Creek Villas.
Just imagine not a cloud in the sky. It's the perfect day on the water. You could be enjoying boating with friends or wetting your line to catch a fish. Or maybe it's just you and that special someone on a sunset cruise. All of this without the hassle of owning a boat with your membership in the Carefree Boat Club. As you relax and spend time with the ones you care about, you have the peace of mind of knowing you're a member of the Carefree Boat Club. Weekends were made for relaxing and being hassle-free, just like the Carefree Boat Club. Let us take the worry out of boat ownership. No matter if you enjoy fishing, skiing, cruising the lake, or maybe even an overnight adventure, we have a boat for you at the Carefree Boat Club. Start making memories today. Call 423-619-7156 to join. Boating season is here, so do not wait. Call now, 423-619-7156. Carefree Boat Club is located at the Harbor Lights Marina, 9718 Hickson Pike.
Poof! Just like a magician, Les's Pawn Shop can turn the stuff that's just lying around in your house and garage into cold, hard cash. Les's Pawn Shop on Highway 58 in Chattanooga will buy, sell, and scrap anything of value. Hey, and get this. If you're looking for anything from guns and jewelry to guitars and tools, you'll find it at Les's Pawn Shop. Quality pre-owned items. Les's Pawn Shop on Highway 58 in Chattanooga also buys gold and silver at top prices. And if they don't have it, they can order it for you. Les's Pawn Shop, Highway 58 in Chattanooga, where you'll get top dollar for your stuff. And you'll be surprised at the wide variety of our unique items. So the next time you're looking to buy, sell, trade, or scrap anything, from jewelry to coins and currency, guns and ammo, music and tools, stop by Les's Pawn Shop, 4742 Highway 58, Chattanooga. Call 702-5868. That's 702-5868. LesPawnShop.com. That's Les with one S, pawnshop.com. Poof! Just like a magician, Les's Pawn Shop can turn the stuff that's just lying around in your house and garage into cold, hard cash.
Any lingering showers will gradually diminish through the nighttime. Overnight lows near 60. For Saturday, a drier day. Lots of morning clouds, but breezy and pleasant. Highs mid and upper 70s. For Sunday, more sunshine. A beautiful day with highs 77 to 80. Rick Pino, Heart Cry Worship, Chris Brooks, and more will be at Collide Chattanooga, a student conference at Abbas House in Hickson, July 14th through the 16th. Early bird registration ends June 12th. More at CollideChattanooga.com. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. The Chattanooga police say that a person was shot on Hickory Street Thursday afternoon The call came in at 5:40 p.m. They did locate one victim, 27-year-old Jermichael Baker, suffering from a non-life-threatening gunshot wound. Hamilton County EMS treated him and took him to the hospital. Officers are still unable to find a confirmed crime scene. They're asking for your help. If you know what happened, call 423-698-2525. The Ironman is hosted in Chattanooga this weekend, and lots of roads are going to be closed. Check out our Facebook page for more information and a complete map of the road closures. The Hamilton County School Board has voted for some fund allocation going towards repairs for school stadiums at East Ridge, Tyner and Howard, and Ottawa, Lookout Valley, Hickson, and CSAS. No timetable has been given, but $913,600 is going to be allocated towards these repairs. One football stadium in particular needs a lot of help. It has sewage that goes onto the field when it floods, and East Ridge has homeside condemned bleachers. It's going on in the Tennessee Valley. It's going on Hot News Talk Radio.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Oh, Vandy. Pulled off the rare, amazingly rare triple steal for the second time in 4 years. And if you're Auburn and that happens to you, how do you feel? Because I'm telling you right now, if that happens to me, all right, I quit. Like, I quit baseball that day. I walk off the mound. I walk home. I go home and I quit. I mean, that's all that there is to that. I just flat out don't even bother with it. I go home. I take the ball. It's not my ball. It's the NCAA's ball. I don't actually care. I take the ball and I go home. That has got to be one of the most humiliating things that could ever happen to an entire team. There's plenty of humiliating things in sports that can happen to just you. If someone crosses you over and breaks your ankles, yeah, that just happens to you. You try and tackle Leonard Fournette in the open field. You're alone, and he's coming. You know what happens next, and that just happens to you. That doesn't happen to the whole defense. That just happens to you. That embarrassing thing that happened. When a triple steal happens, that's the whole team. That's possibly the most embarrassing thing that can happen to your whole team. Check us out on Facebook. I just posted the triple steal link there on Facebook, so make sure to check that out. It's hilarious. You've got to watch that video. You've got to. Brought to you by Deadspin.com. So we're in a new era now of, well, everything. Sports especially, but everything. The way that industry works, the way that businesses make their money. Before, you had to make your money on a product or a service. Now you can make money on ideas. You can sell ideas, the concept of something. You know, there are places online that we're getting away from making stuff. I think we are still doing services, but like we're more service oriented, definitely, than we used to be. Okay, gone are the days of assembly lines. If someone wants to make extra cash on the side, you could be an Uber driver. If you want to make extra cash on the side, there's a myriad of things that you can just do. There's a website called Fiverr, where if you're a graphic designer, you can charge people small amounts of money to make, a quick little graphic design for them, which is great if you have a business and you don't want to try and go out and hunt for a graphic designer and pay a really good one because maybe you can't afford one. Then you can go on Fiverr and get that designed. I mean, there's a ton of ways. The world's changing on that front. And I don't think that there's any sport right now that has shown the changes that the NBA has. that there's a ton of sports that maybe they've changed too far. You think of NASCAR and the car of tomorrow. That's not stock car racing anymore. Those are now specialized cars that you can never drive. The car of tomorrow kind of took that away from NASCAR. The idea that the car that they're racing is the same car you can drive, but with a bigger engine. Some things have changed too far. Some things haven't really changed enough. Baseball, that's why it is the way it is. I mean, baseball hasn't changed to the point where we're enforcing rules that are so important, nobody bothered to write them down. Come on. Like, baseball isn't fun, and it's terrible from a young person perspective. Like, I enjoy baseball. I'm 26. I think I'm just a little bit over that line there of people that they don't like to sit down and watch the whole game, but baseball makes plenty of money, so there's no real reason to change anything. I mean, I don't know what it is that you would change about baseball, but a guy flips a bat, he's getting pegged. If a guy celebrates at all, shows up the pitcher in any way, hurts his feelings some, he's getting hit with a pitch. You've just got a bunch of guys that aren't able to express themselves playing a sport that's literally over a century old. We just don't want that anymore. Baseball hasn't changed enough. NASCAR has changed too much. And the NBA is kind of in danger of being more on the NASCAR side than anything because of how much it's changed. The sport doesn't really operate like it used to. I think that it's the perfect amount. Basketball is as fun as it's ever been. You can talk about the different eras. You can talk about how loaded things used to be. You look back in the 2000s and you had young, beginning his prime, LeBron James, Tracy McGrady near the end of his prime, Yao Ming, Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant. The list goes on. Allen Iverson, you could just keep going forever, right? And you look at today's NBA and all of the best guys in the league right now, they're playing still. It's LeBron, it's Durant, it's Westbrook, it's Curry. Those are the best guys in the league, and they're all playing. And I think a lot of people have confused things and convinced themselves that this means that the league is not loaded. That means that the league is not stacked in some weird way. We have guys in the middle of their career. We're not even done with this era yet. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way to judge that. And the way that the Warriors play specifically, and in particular Steph Curry, just a lot of people have come out to criticize the way that he plays. He shoots too many threes. He's not physical. He couldn't take the contact of back in our day. But back in your day, and I don't want to insult everyone, but I imagine I will instantly alienate everyone. Back in your day, it was more boring. Okay? There was a lot of iso ball. There wasn't as much passing. It was hard to get to the paint if you were a smaller player. That's boring. Okay? When the ball moves around, like the San Antonio Spurs taking apart the Miami Heat a couple years back, when that happens, that's not just basketball. That's not just sports. That's art. Okay? What we used to watch, where you give the ball to Allen Iverson and he would dribble to the right, dribble to the left, cross somebody over, fire up a shot with 5 seconds to go on the shot clock. Yeah, he'd make it, but then that's not interesting basketball. That's a great player being great, but that's not interesting basketball. I mean, I much prefer the way the league looks now. This is obviously the greatest era, just from a visual perspective, from a tactical perspective even. You have to be so much more aware defensively because of the things that you can't do as an individual defender. The way that teams play defense as a team concept with a help defender and icing people, trying to push them away to their offhand and not doing it as an individual defender, but as a team, that's far more fascinating than the way things used to be. And I watched the way things used to be, and I enjoyed the way things used to be, but I can enjoy this now too. And of all the players that used to play in the league, Larry Bird has said that he thinks that this era might be better. Now, here's what Larry Bird said in an interview with The New Yorker. It's funny how the game has changed. And my thinking about it, I was really worried back 16, 17 years ago that the little guy didn't have a spot in the NBA anymore. It was just going to be the big guards like Magic Johnson. But then players started shooting more threes and spacing the court. And everyone wants small guards now. Watching these kids play now, I'm like everybody else. Wow, man, they can really shoot. They have more freedom to get to the basket. The ball moves a little better. These kids are shooting from farther out with more accuracy. Now some teams shoot up around 33s a game. My era, you always think that's the greatest era, but I'm not so sure anymore. And look, Larry Bird is a guy who works in Indiana's front office, okay? Of all the voices floating around out there, the Gary Paytons of the world, Isaiah Thomas, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, all the criticism that's flowing into the way the players play the game now, Larry Bird is the big one of those guys still involved in basketball. And you have to have your mind ready to change with the times if you're going to be helping a team win. And he's a key player in the front office of the Indiana Pacers. Part of helping that team win and helping that team move forward is understanding that the game is always in flux and that what's happening now is not necessarily worse than what used to happen. Okay? You lived when your prime was in the past. That to you is always going to be the greatest era. I talk about it with my friends all the time. We talk about it. When were the greatest cartoons? Ask anybody that's my age. I'm 26. When were the greatest cartoons? Late 90s, early 2000s. Well, gee, I wonder. When were we all kids? Late 90s, early 2000s. That was when we were watching cartoons and remember them. Okay? Ask someone older than us when the greatest cartoons were. They're going to say when they were a kid. Ask anybody when the greatest movies were. They're going to choose the movies from their prime. You choose the things of your prime, okay? The reason why Michael Jordan is such a terrible, terrible dresser, okay, with all the denim on denim violence that man commits. I mean, you should just lock him up and throw away the key. Just the fashion police should just track him down and arrest him. The reason why is because Michael Jordan is dressing like he did in his prime, and in his prime, that was the 90s. Michael Jordan hasn't changed his dressing. He hasn't become a worse dresser. The world changed around him, and he still dresses like it's 1994. That was Michael Jordan's prime. That was the best you had of Michael Jordan. So, of course, Michael Jordan dresses that way. You look at a lot of guys. Tim Duncan's a terrible dresser, but he didn't get worse. That was what people dressed like in 2001. That was Tim Duncan's prime. You dress like what your prime is. You listen to the music of your prime. There are people that are plenty open-minded that can listen to the music of today, and appreciate it just as much as the music of their time. Ask them what their favorite songs are, and they're going to tell you the music that they listened to when they were 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. The human mind does not accept change that easily. And even when you accept change, the days were always better when you were younger. And every generation goes through this. The whole kids these days. All right. I'm going to do it. I'm going to one day turn around to some 20-year-old and go, what is wrong with you? And there's not going to be anything wrong with that kid. The world changed. And I didn't change my thinking. But that kid's fine. Take a look at computers. Okay? Who were the people that changed the way that we view computers the most? Bill Joy, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs. What do they all have in common? They were all born within 6 months of one another. 1955 to 1954, end of 1954, 1955. Why is that important? Because they were all 21 years old when the personal computer became widely popular. Okay, and they grew up in environments where they got to experiment with technology at an early age. So they already had a familiarity with technology by the time the personal computer came out, and they were ready to go. Anybody else could have done this, except if you were too old, you didn't want to risk your job, maybe you had a couple of mouths to feed, and you didn't want to risk everything trying to figure out how this new personal computer thing was going to play out. And if you were too young, you were too young. Sometimes it's just about hitting that sweet spot. Steph Curry couldn't have been Steph Curry in 1997. League was different. But that's okay. That's not wrong. People talk about how the Bulls would have destroyed the Warriors. That's like, I hear that's the biggest. The 96 Bulls would have destroyed the 2016 Warriors. Depends on what era you play in, right? If you go into a time machine and you bring the 2016 Warriors with you and you transport them back to the 1996 NBA, yeah, the Bulls blow them out of the gym. But if you take Michael Jordan and those Bulls and bring them to the future, to today's NBA, they get leveled. In a 7-game series, they get run. The difference is the era. Everything that they would have done defensively would have been a foul. They wouldn't have known. Okay? Things that maybe would have been called as a carry back in the 90s, that's not a carry now. That's just dribbling. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. You got to be ready for change. Okay? It happens. It happens. I was listening to The Herd with Colin Cowherd, and I agree a lot with the analysis of people who like Donald Trump, like the idea that he's talking about make America great again. We don't like the idea that anything is fine right now, or that the future is great. We like the past. We want to go back to the past. And Donald Trump is appealing to a lot of people, in large part because he's appealing to your desire to go back to the past. You can't vote for him on that front because Donald Trump can't take you back to the past. Donald Trump's not going to make America great again. America's already pretty nice. Let's just focus on making America better. Let's focus on making America best. That's all. We don't have to worry about living in the past. Look to the future. Timing is everything in how all of this stuff plays out. And if you're not looking towards the future, when your Microsoft moment comes, you're going to be left holding the bag. You're listening to AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you for joining me today, giving me just a little slice of your day. You know that I appreciate you. I'm going to start banging the drum that I have been banging for a while, and that is the drum of we need to cancel the Olympics. I know. We've been coming back to this issue with increasing regularity. I tried to avoid it for the longest time, but there's no way that you can avoid this. Are we really doing this? I'm surprised that there's no decision to stop this madness. Going to Brazil for the Olympics right now is madness, okay? And I saw the reasons to cancel the Olympics ranked on Gizmodo. Alyssa Walker has a great write-up on the Olympics. I am a huge fan of the Olympics, first and foremost. I really enjoy them. My favorite events are basketball and boxing. I pretty much try and find a way to get enough time to do those. But I'll watch everything. I'll watch the volleyball, indoor, outdoor, doesn't matter. I watch all the water games. I mean, I watch everything. Literally all of it. Just plant my butt down on the couch and just watch the whole thing. Here's the problem with having the Olympics, okay? All 11 reasons, according to Gizmodo, ranked. Ready? Zika virus. I know, right? We've talked about this enough. Every time you turn on Fox News, it's Zika virus this, it's Zika virus that. Their Zika virus segments get longer and longer every single day. I can't stand it, actually. Zika virus. Okay. Number 10, inequality. Rio's poorest residents have been shouldered with the heaviest burden for the Olympics, and some of them have already lost their homes. So if that doesn't get you right there in the moral part of your soul somewhere. Also, doping scandals. There's a massive doping scandal that could ban 31 athletes not yet named from 12 countries and 6 sports from participating, including the Russians who are already outed. In fact, Russia might be completely locked out of the Olympics because it never complied with the anti-doping agency investigation, and Kenya might not be able to compete at all either. So fantastic. There's been a number of political scandals in Brazil. The president has been suspended after being impeached, and that's not all. More than half of the members of Brazil's Senate are also being investigated for crimes. So that's delightful. Like, imagine if half the Senate were being investigated for crimes. Would you really trust that nation? And this is not, in and of itself, a reason to not have the Olympics in Brazil. Like, we're not punishing them because their politicians are corrupt. But the politicians aren't helping the people, and Brazil's in a recession. They're in a massive recession, and the Olympics could be worse. And if the Olympics aren't successful, they could be much, much worse in shape in terms of where their economy is. And as we know, events like the Olympics and events like the Super Bowl that are supposed to make money, that the general consensus is that they make money, actually don't. You lose money a little bit, sure, but you don't gain anything. And if you're in a recession, you don't want to be losing any kind of money in any kind of way. Furthermore, the water, the poop water that the water sport athletes will have to be somehow competing in. The country has not cleaned up the water, and it has the potential to make athletes very, very ill. Okay, there's unfinished infrastructure. There's supposed to be a metro that connects all of the major venues for the Olympics. Hasn't been finished, so the traffic is going to be insane. And I don't know if you've ever seen Brazil. The traffic is already insane. There's dangerous infrastructure, not to be confused with the stuff that's not finished, but there's stuff that's already falling apart and killing people. Bad luck. South Korea, that's supposed to host the next Olympics. Really terrible things happened last time. You can probably look that up if you want to. The International Olympic Committee seems like a bunch of jerks. That's also a good reason. They're corrupt, about as corrupt as FIFA, if not more corrupt. And, of course, reason number 1, guys, Zika virus is not a joke. If a woman is pregnant, she cannot go to the Olympics. If she's considering getting pregnant, she cannot go to the Olympics. So what is the point of going to the Olympics? You could literally cause a global pandemic with this whole Zika virus situation. We got to stop this. We cannot have the Olympics. Like, we all understand this, right? Like, I don't hear anybody saying this nearly enough. You know that we can't have the Olympics, right? It's not possible. All right. There's just a minute left here. We've got a caller. Caller, you're on the air. Hello. All right. Well, I'm glad you called in, but we couldn't hear you. If you could try again on Monday. We do not have enough time to go further into this. You have been listening to Clutch with Keon Rose here on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Make sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and hotnewstalkradio.com, where you can stream all of our shows 24/7, 365, and check out all of our social media that way. Make sure to check us out on the TuneIn Radio app. It's completely free in your favorite app store. Simply search Hot News Talk Radio. Give us a follow and press play, and you'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. Remember, folks, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch, and I'll see you all in 72 hours.
You get give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds,